Doreen Grand-Pichet is the...
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Okay, Jim Eagle, we're saying hello to you. Taryn, we're so glad that you're here with us. Andrea has written in and said, good morning, ladies. My son is 3.5 years old. He has been in card with ABA, so I'm assuming it's good ABA, since September. My question is, it seems as if we get a behavior done and he replaces it with a new behavior, and if so, will this be the rest of my life constantly trying to diminish behaviors? I meant to say, is this normal? If so, will this be the rest of my life trying to diminish behaviors? There's a lot there to unpack.
There's a lot there to unpack. And I have to be very careful about this,
Yes.
how I respond to this. I want you to make sure you're getting good ABA.
Always, no matter who you're with.
No matter who you are with, I want you to make sure it's good. I don't know, I honestly cannot comment on which provider out there now provides good ABA. But what good ABA means is that it is rewarding. There's a really good plan of action, and every ongoing lesson or protocol that they put in place builds upon the previous one and expands to the next one. In other words, let's say your child is having a behavior, they have a plan that addresses that specific behavior. They have explained it to you. It makes sense to you. Everybody's working on the same thing. And it is okay if that behavior extinguishes, goes away, and another behavior comes. But it tells you one thing. It tells you when challenging behaviors come about, that means the child is trying to communicate something. That means the environment is not yet fair enough. Because remember, challenging behaviors are all about communication. They're just the child trying to tell you they want something or they want to avoid something. Always. It's always one of those, right? The things they could want are fewer lessons, less time working, less demands. They could want access to more reinforcers, access to activities, access to people. They could want, I don't want to be in this classroom. I don't want this therapist. Remember, they're trying to communicate something. So that is super important. And when you figure that out, and when you teach the child that having a challenging behavior to express that is not okay, but there are other ways that they can express that, challenging behaviors in general dissipate. It's the same as us. It's exactly the same as us. If you think about it, if you're frustrated, and you're angry. Let's say, a week ago I was really frustrated and angry because I had 4 days of no power, no electricity. And I'm frustrated, I'm angry. What do? We first call the Department of Water Power nicely. Then we start to raise our voice, et cetera, et cetera. And that frustration is expressed through the challenging behavior of yelling at the person at DWP.
Right.
That's not a good behavior. But once the issue is resolved, let's say the individual says, calm down, lady, I'm going to help you. And when they do, and it is resolved and finally, which is what they did, honestly, someone came right away and spent hours down by our circle and fixed the whole neighborhood. But when that happened, then obviously I didn't have a reason to be frustrated anymore.
Right.
So it's important that you make sure that there's no reason for your child to be having these new challenging behaviors. Now, I do want to say, I don't know if you just said behaviors, and I don't know if you're talking about challenging behaviors or if you're talking about self-stimulatory behaviors, ritualistic behaviors. And those are not things that we tend to do very well at controlling. Ritualistic behaviors, I have a child right now I'm working with where he has so many ritualistic behaviors that are things have to be in a certain order. He has to do things with his hands. He can't, it's a huge, very high level of self-stimulatory behavior. And that prohibits him from learning, right? But those are things that are very difficult for us to control. And we either have to put them on a schedule of sensory input so that we try to reduce that. I think she wrote back and said challenging behavior.
Yeah.
So going back to challenging behaviors, there's always a reason. And if you know the reason, and if your team has taught your child to communicate in a more acceptable manner rather than expressing himself through challenging behavior, there's no reason these challenging behaviors would continue. Now, it's also possible that your child will have new needs as he ages, and he will have difficulty knowing how to express those new desires, those new needs, and then the challenging behaviors continue. It's also possible that there are people in his environment that still allow the challenging behaviors. So that often happens when our kids are in school. And let's say in school the child tantrums and the teacher has no alternative but to ask the child to be removed from the classroom. And that is very rewarding for the child's challenging behavior. The child learns, every time I scream, they let me go for a walk, which is great, and I'm going to scream from now on. So that's the kind of stuff that your ABA team will have a really hard time with, because they have to make sure his environment is consistent and that everyone is dealing with challenging behaviors the same way. Now, I'm almost afraid to ask how many hours of ABA is he getting, because these days, whenever I ask that question, there's a lot of just not enough hours going on. So, and I see, Tammy, I think that you've also written in and said, oh, that's Tammy. So let's go back to that. There's like so many questions popping in.
She says 40.
He's getting 40. That's absolutely fantastic,
Amazing.
Andrea. Like, wow, wonderful. And did you tell us he's 3.5? Yeah, that's the ideal. It's not that long that he's been in an ABA program. So there's going to be a little while that he's frustrated. Just bear with it. Sit with it. And make sure when you have these questions, talk to your BCBA, your supervisor, and say, why does he still have challenging behaviors? And they better give you the same exact response I just gave you, which is he's trying to communicate something. We're trying to figure it out.
Okay.
Don't forget, you can watch Ask Dr. Doreen live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We hope to see you there.